All right, welcome back. It has been a little more than 2 months since Democrat Abigail Spanberger became governor of Virginia. And we've already seen major policy shifts from her predecessor, Republican Glenn Youngkin. And that is especially true when it comes to energy and how to best lower utility costs. Now she has named Josephus Allmond as Chief Energy Officer, a newly created cabinet level position. Allmond had previously been a lawyer at the Southern Environmental Law Center. And joining us now is Steve Hayner, a senior fellow with the Thomas Jefferson Institute for Public Policy. Sir, thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I'm happy to help.
Yes, and let's get into it and start with Mr. Almond, someone you're familiar with. What kind of actions are you expecting him to take?
I do know Mr. Almond. I don't know him well. I know him more by reputation and by what he's done in various lawsuits and cases at the State Corporation Commission. He is going to follow through on the Virginia Clean Economy Act. He is going to follow through on the policies that actually go back to Mr. Northam, the previous governor before Glenn Youngkin. Glenn Youngkin basically suspended all the policies that Northam was proceeding with, and now we have a new Democrat governor, and she's appointed this person, and I expect to see us back in that point of view. They are very much opposed to the use of natural gas, obviously deeply opposed to the use of any coal, and will be pushing very hard for more wind and solar and those types of energy solutions.
A different direction there for sure. I know here at 7 News on your side, WJLA 24/7, we talk a lot about costs impacting the everyday person. What do you believe are the biggest factors driving up energy costs right now?
Well, there are a lot of reasons energy costs have been going up, and in some cases, there's not a thing we can do about it. Doesn't help to have natural gas prices going up during a little war we've got going on. That's not going to help either. The biggest problem really is that we have this old grid, and we're spending a lot of money to upgrade the grid, and we do have a growing demand. There's no question about it. So with the new demand, we need additional generation. We need additional transmission lines. The generation's never popular, and the transmission lines are always deeply hated by the folks around them. But the bottom line is we need them, and they're expensive. And then, in my opinion, I think a major contributing factor has been this move away from the more reliable sources of energy. My personal favorite being natural gas generation. I think we should be building more natural gas in Virginia, and then we wouldn't need all this solar and wind. I think in the long run, the solar and wind are going to prove more expensive, not less expensive.
And earlier, just moments ago, you had mentioned the Virginia Clean Economy Act, passed in 2020, which requires Dominion Energy to be 100% carbon-free electricity by 2045.
Right.
So significant. Talk to us about why there's such a divide in the state about whether that will work.
Well, again, it's more of a divide in the entire country. Obviously, the same arguments are going on in other states. We're following the path of New York, California, Illinois, some of the other states who believe they can run their economies without any natural gas, certainly without any coal. Whereas in Virginia, we've had a long history of a diverse energy source. We've had coal plants; they're mostly gone. We've had natural gas plants and quite a few, and we, of course, luckily in Virginia, still have nuclear. But again, I think the physics is pretty clear. I mean, if you have a solar panel, it will operate when the sun is shining, and the sun does not always shine. If you have a wind turbine, it will operate very nicely when the wind is blowing, but the wind does not always blow. So you have to have something to back that up, and the best backup, in my opinion, is natural gas.
Just to diversify, you're saying is, sir, when it comes to energy, another story that we have covered so extensively here, it gets a lot of attention in Virginia, data centers. You have written that you feel some of the bills being pushed in this General Assembly could hurt the Virginia business community. Can you please explain that for us?
Well, one of my many jobs has been in the past. I worked for the Chamber of Commerce. I was their lobbyist for the Chamber of Commerce, and then after that, I was the lobbyist for a major industrial firm in Newport News. You make these deals with the state like Virginia. You bring your investments to the state. You have a contract, basically. You have a memorandum of understanding. You have certain agreements. One of the things Virginia did to bring these businesses here was to promise those tax benefits. And it's one thing to say, look, we want to phase them out over the next 5 or 10 years. It's something else just to rip them away in one session. So I think that sends a terrible message, not just to those industries, but to everybody outside Virginia saying, don't make a deal with Virginia because it might not hold. The next governor may change the deal.
And you've covered, of course, public policy for decades. You mentioned we need to diversify here.
Let's not say how many.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, your experience is vast. You talk about the need for, in your opinion, diversifying energy sources. You say, this is the direction this new administration is likely going to go. Is there a middle ground? Is there a way that we could meet in the middle to help with some of these rising energy costs, in your view?
Well, again, I'm afraid that the best we can hope for is to slow down the increase. I don't see us lowering energy costs anytime soon. Again, I think we need to include a baseload natural gas component. I think that's the single biggest debate I would probably have with this new administration, is they are going to resist that. There's a Dominion plant in Chesterfield County you may be familiar with. It's not a large plant. It just got approved by the State Corporation Commission, but it is now going to be tested in court. The Supreme Court is going to hear a case challenging that permit. And it'll be very interesting to see what Governor Spanberger and our new Attorney General Jones, do about that. I'm very worried that they will go to the Supreme Court and argue to deny that permit and argue to not allow Dominion to build that plant. So that'll be one test. Another test is a plant that was just approved by the County Board of Supervisors in Fluvanna County near Charlottesville. And that's an even bigger natural gas plant, even more important to Virginia's grid, more important to the PJM regional power pool that we belong to, because we're part of a big multi-state power pool, PJM, and PJM wants this plant built in Fluvanna. But again, I'm very worried that the Abigail Spanberger administration is going to oppose those permits, and I think long term that's a big mistake for our energy costs. And again, another big thing they did this session, don't forget, is they passed this bill that says, again, the Clean Economy Act talks about wind and solar, but now it talks about batteries. They want to build, thousands and thousands of megawatt hours of battery power. All of those are major capital expenses. They're going to be just as expensive as that offshore wind has proven to be. Going to be multiple billions, tens of billions of dollars to build those batteries. And I don't think we need that many batteries. So I think that, again, will tend to drive up our prices over the next 5 or 10 years.
A very complex problem for sure. Steve Hayner, a senior fellow with the Thomas Jefferson Institute for Public Policy. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon.
Anytime, call back.
All right, thank you.